Hi, everyone, and welcome to He Said, She Said, the Gen X Survival Guide. I'm Angie. I'm a high performance coach in Silicon Valley, and your Gen X guide to health and happiness by any means necessary.
I'm Brian Asher. I'm an artist, I'm a counselor, and a coach. And together we are the House of Little Wonders.
We're here to help you get your mojo back. And today we're going to talk about one of the trickiest dynamics in relationships.
So that's when one partner is on a mission to grow and change, and the other one, likes things just the way they are, Angie.
Yeah. So maybe you're trying to clean up your eating habits, or you've started exercising, but your partner could care less, is not on the same page.
Well, on a bigger scale, perhaps you're reevaluating your life and shedding some bad habits, but they are still stuck in their comfort zone. It's a classic push and pull.
Stick around because the second half of the show, we're going to focus on simple daily habits that can make everything better. You'll leave with practical tools to bridge the gap between independence and togetherness.
So this is He Said, She Said, the Gen X Survival Guide.
This is about the space between us. Here's the challenge, Brian. Relationships aren't static. We evolve over time. We grow, we learn, and sometimes that growth happens. Well, I think it happens almost times on different timelines.
It would be something seemingly small, like wanting to eat healthier, or maybe something bigger, like addressing those long-term unhealthy habits. I'm thinking of maybe alcohol is one. Regardless of the scale, when one person feels ready to make a change and the other person resists, that creates tension in the relationship.
Yes, can you imagine what it's like being married to me? You know, the overthinker, constantly changing, fixing this room. I want this peace and quiet, and I'm just waiting to fix something.
The meditating, the
Yeah,
meditating.
constant up leveling. And he just wants to have peace and quiet watching the game.
Yeah. Well, I don't think anyone can actually imagine what it's like being married to you, Angie.
You know, my grandmother told me you better love the man you marry exactly the way he is because you cannot change him. What you see is what you get. And if you try to change someone, you're always going to get pushed back.
So here's the key insight. It's not always about the change itself, right? Often the resistance comes because no one wants to be bossed around, Angie,
Yes.
right? It's not that I don't want to eat more vegetables or I don't want to get fit or healthy. It's just that I don't want to be told what to do.
Right. So the change is objectively a good one, but people push back if they feel like they're losing their freedom.
Right. And that's it. So that's what we're getting into today. And it's going to be a good one.
Yes, good discussion. Okay, Brian, I'd like to zoom in on the concept of autonomy because it feels like the secret sauce behind all of this resistance.
Yeah. So when people resist change, it's rarely about the new behavior, right? Deep down, it's about losing control.
Oh boy, yeah. So statements like, I don't want to eat healthier usually translate to, I don't want you telling me what to do,
Right.
right? And if you don't reframe the dynamic, you'll never make the progress you're looking for.
Exactly. So no one's actually against getting healthier, right?
Right.
Let's face it, no one's
We all
actually
do that.
against looking better, feeling better, living longer, but no one likes to be bossed around.
Yes. So here's where most people mess that up then. They try to convince their partner to change, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to convince
Right.
them,
Yeah.
win them over to our side.
And if you're trying to convince someone,
Right.
if you're trying to convince them to do anything, you're going to fail. And the reason is because logic rarely wins arguments, especially in relationships. So, Angie, you're famous for this.
I'm big on science.
Stop quoting the science, right?
Yep.
This is the study that shows you that you should join me on my walks, right? Try leading with how you feel. I feel great when I exercise. It's so beautiful out there right now. I want to share that with you.
There we are, those I statements. They leave room for dialogue, not the defensiveness. I have so much more energy when I eat less sugar, for example. I feel great now. I've lost 5 pounds and it was so easy. I, right? So they're listening and you can engage without this pointing finger, nagging.
Exactly. People hate being told what to do, but when you model the change, that speaks volumes and you show people how great it can be.
Amen to that. You want your partner to eat better? Cook a delicious, wholesome meal that feels indulgent. No lectures, just like, hey, taste this. Look what I made today.
I know, and you are a great cook. So this is about making the change look inviting, right? Not forced. You're extending an invitation. You're not barking out an order.
Another piece is that people are often afraid of the pain of making those big changes, like going on the big diet or working out regularly or even giving up sugar or alcohol.
Right. So setting big goals is what scares people away, right? And then they start to feel resentful because not only are you nagging them, right? But you're also asking them to do something which to them just feels overwhelming, right?
Yes. So if they're not ready for big steps, take small ones. Like start with a 10-minute walk instead of an hour-long gym session. Small steps through the steady application of simple daily habits is the best way to achieve results. And it's the cornerstone of our approach here at Little Wonders.
Absolutely. But the backdrop to all of this, Angie, is that, couples have different relationship styles, right? And I know that you've given a lot of thought about this. So maybe take us through what is the application of relationship styles on this whole change thing.
At one end of the spectrum, you see people that are best friends. They've been married forever, they do everything together, they're always together. And then you see on the other side of the spectrum, people who are growing and changing side by side, kind of running in parallel to each other.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sort of like it's like the turtle doves,
Yeah.
one end of the spectrum. And then at the other end, you have the railway tracks.
Okay. Yep.
They're going in the same direction, but they're not really
They're perfectly happy together. They're just doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the two sides, I would say.
Exactly. And I think that it's harder for couples who are more on the turtle dove side of the spectrum because what happens is that the one who is not changing starts to feel a little bit of fear.
Yes.
They start to think, oh, she's growing and changing, she's going to leave me behind.
Right. There can be fear in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's going to leave me behind and she's not going to like me anymore. Or the other side of that coin is, oh, she's growing and changing. I'm not going to like her anymore. Right.
Right.
So whichever way you slice it, there's a whole bunch of fear in there, which gets in the way of communication, because then things start to come out sideways. Right.
And it's much harder for the turtle doves.
Yeah.
So when we're on the train tracks, they can kind of do, they're appreciating each other's their differences almost in a way. It doesn't bother them as much. Where the turtle doves, it's almost their identity
Yeah.
is in question. Like this is how it's always been with us.
Exactly. And here's a question to ask yourself. Where are you on that continuum? Are you more of a railway track type couple or are you more of a turtle dove type couple?
Yeah.
So let's talk though, Angie, when the resistance is, digs in, what is that about? Sometimes the resistance is like,
Right.
no,
I am not doing it. Well, sometimes this isn't about you or your change at all. It's much deeper and it can be based in more of fear or even past trauma where they now have coping mechanisms that make them that help them deal with whatever they're up against. And with that could be stress of work. So they come home and they have habits around that. And now that's being challenged by your change in the evening routine between you as a couple. So,
well, that's when it gets tricky because no one wants to give up what helps them, get through the day.
right.
That might be having a few drinks. It might be going to the casino. It might be jumping on Amazon and shopping like hell,
Yeah.
And we're asking them to give that up without giving them a new coping mechanism. And that is when things can get tricky. And that's maybe when it's time to look for professional help.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's when intervention, the therapist can shine light on some coping styles and help bridge communication gaps. That's really important. Yes, I agree. But it's also a point where you have to evaluate what you're willing to accept and what you need to stand firm on. And that's, we talked a little bit about compromise and
Yeah.
sacrifice.
Let's talk about the cost of all of this,
Right.
And we call this episode The Space Between Us for a reason, right?
Mhm.
Because unless a couple is willing to grow together, the space between them will increase.
Yes.
And that's a sacrifice that people don't even understand that they're making. One person wants to change, right? They are willing to compromise to bring the other person along. And that is a sacrifice. They are sacrificing, how far they can go, right? But the person who doesn't want to change is also sacrificing, but they don't often see that. They're sacrificing closeness.
Yeah.
They're sacrificing intimacy and possibly even the viability of the relationship, right? And that's a big sacrifice.
So the example of that, so the audience can understand what we're talking about, is one is just on this exercise kick, and after dinner she's going for a walk, or he's going for a long, running, and the other is on the couch. This is what makes me comfortable. This is my coping.
Yeah.
And then he doesn't or she doesn't realize that one on the couch is like, I'm losing time
Right.
with my significant other.
Right. And they're having
That-
experiences without me.
Right.
They're growing in new directions.
Right. So that's the sacrifice that adds up over time,
Yeah.
and we don't even realize it's kind of unconscious. That's why it's so tricky, like we mentioned earlier. All right, now we shift gears. At Little Wonders, we're all about simple daily habits that help you get your mojo back. So here are 3 tools to help couples tackle this tricky dynamic.
All right, Angie, let's start with this idea of strengthening your connection as a couple, because unless you're connected, you're not
Yeah.
going to achieve anything.
So here's a quick and easy one. Rather than asking your partner, how was your day, which is good or bad, try to check in with an open-ended question like, tell me the high point of your day. What was the best thing that happened today? And then try the low point. Hey, what was the lowest point of the day or something that wasn't so great? And it's an open-ended question, so it instills more of a communication,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's connection.
Absolutely, because we know, especially guys, that they're famous for the one-word answer. Fine. How's your day? Fine, and that's it. You don't talk anymore, right?
Right.
But what was the high point of your day? Is inviting them to think, what was a high point in my day? Then share, which I love.
Yes.
So those connections keep you connected, which means that the conversations about change are
Yeah.
going to be easier.
Yeah.
Right.
So much easier.
So another little wonder that's going to work is, instead of demanding wholesale change, go slow. Focus on simple daily habits that replace one habit at a time, right?
Right.
Here's an example. Go for a little 10-minute walk after dinner,
Yeah.
right? Don't say, well, we're taking out a gym membership and we're going every day. Don't do that.
Right.
Little walk after dinner, and that's also a great time to connect. Actually.
Exactly. And remember, we talked about making it inviting. So, for example, if your partner's snacking on chips, offer a healthier, still delicious alternative. So, you're not going to say you shouldn't eat those chips. You just start creating, hey, I love my pesto and bruschetta with apples. And he's looking around the corner like, okay, can I have a taste of that? Can I grab one? Different approach.
Yeah, exactly. So another little wonder to think about is this idea of anchoring your own growth. And what we mean by that is focus on you, right? Remember, change starts with you.
Yes, you have to do what you want to do. So, stay true to your goals, lead by example, and that energy will speak louder than words.
Yeah. At Little Wonders, we're all about being in alignment with your inner truth, who you are, what you want to do. And when you are a leader and lead by example, you create the opportunity for other people to join you, right?
Yes, just be, do versus force,
Right.
create. All right, folks, here's the takeaway. Change is messy, but it all starts with you. When you honor your own growth, you inspire those around you to do the same.
Right. So don't order, invite. And you can inspire change with clear communication, a little compassion,
Yeah.
those of us who like the couch, and a little humor.
Yes. Hey, did you hear about the one about the Irishman? Oh, this is a good joke.
It's a good joke.
It's a good
I
joke.
look forward to hearing it.
Yeah.
Which is not on the show, Angie. All right, you can learn more about our coaching programs and the retreats that we run at thehouseoflittlewonders.com.
This has been He Said, She Said, the Gen X Survival Guide. I'm Angie DiGeronimo.
And I'm Brian Asher. We'll see you next time.